Technology can be amazing, but it can also be terrifying. For me, it's definitely the latter. I grew up in the early 90s, so from a young age I was exposed to technology as it rapidly developed. Watching technology advance from cassette players to CDs to iPods to smartphones in such a short amount of time was incredible. I'm sure for the older generation, it probably happened a bit too quickly. During my youth, I was lucky enough to learn at a pace in which technology progressed, and that helped me adapt to new things. My parents aren't like that. They are very old-fashioned. They would rather take things slow and easy than jump into the unknown. I can't blame them, however. They do come from a completely different time. It's hard to forget that some of the older generation had lived a certain way for decades, only to be shell-shocked by what we have today. Think about it. What if you traveled back in time and handed a man from the 1600s an iPhone? You'd be burned at the stake for being a witch. While my parents understand the concept of smartphones and computers, I can't tell you the amount of hours I've spent teaching them how to operate them. Opening Facebook 1,000 times, debugging and removing viruses, and generally becoming unpaid tech support. It does become monotonous after doing the same thing over and over again, but at least now I know how to fix the problems quickly when they arise. My mother was very against technology when I was growing up. She hated the idea of other people being on the internet. She seemed to have this inane fear that strangers could see everything that you do and could completely steal all of your information or worse. I always brushed it off as parental paranoia. But now, years later, I'm beginning to agree. It all started shortly after I purchased a brand new webcam. Throughout the years, I never really had a need for one. But recently, my friends had gotten into doing online hangouts, where we could all spend time chatting or playing games with each other. Yeah, a webcam isn't really necessary for that, but I was the only one without one, and to be honest, I felt left out. After installing the webcam and updated everything, I enjoyed the better part of the day virtually hanging out with a few of my friends. A couple of them were finishing up essays for college. Another was busy gunning for a chicken dinner in an online game, while I simply just browsed the web. After about an hour passed of mindlessly scrolling, a chat box appeared in the center of my screen. This startled me as I hadn't remembered clicking on anything that would lead to chat messages. The message in the box only said 3 words. I see you. Reading these words were a bit ominous. Combined with my clock nearing midnight, I was beginning to feel uneasy. I asked my friends if any of them had sent me a private message, to which they all replied no. I clicked on the box and wrote back, "Who is this?" I received no reply. I rubbed my eyes tiredly and closed out of everything, wishing my friends a good night. As my computer powered down and I dragged myself to my bed, I noticed something strange as my head hit the pillow. My computer had somehow turned itself back on. Now, I have experienced similar stuff like this in the past. Frequently, when a computer updates itself, it will restart and turn itself back on. I simply pushed my concerns out of my mind and went to bed. When I woke up, my groggy eyes adjusted to my surroundings and I looked over to my computer. It was still on, and in the center of the screen was a small box. I yawned, pulling myself from the comfort of my blankets to look at what it said. I only took a few steps towards my computer before I stopped. I rubbed my eyes in disbelief before focusing my gaze back on the screen. In the center of my computer, in a small little chat box, was a new message. It said, "You talk in your sleep." Immediately, I walked over and ripped my webcam off of my computer. I had a feeling that the previous message was connected to my new webcam. This one only confirmed it. I put the webcam back in the box and thought nothing about it. I got in the shower, got dressed, and was about to grab my keys off my desk when I glanced at my computer again and saw a new message on the screen. "Don't forget your keys," it said. My body completely seized up when I read that. I knew for a fact there was no way anyone could see me through my computer. Yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that whoever this was still watching me somehow. So, before I went to work, I found a few antivirus programs and set them to run while I was at work. I have had computers my entire life, and I've actually had my bank info stolen before, but this situation felt completely different. I was starting to feel like I was in danger. I called a friend of mine who actually works with computers for a living, and he told me that there are types of malware which will collect and use information to generate messages, but programmers can create their own custom viruses, so it all depends. He advised me to just run the antivirus programs, and if the problem still persists, send it into an expert to get it repaired. I got home later in the evening and went directly to my computer. All of my programs had completed, and there were no signs of any viruses or messages, which made me sigh with relief. A few weeks passed without issue. My life went back to relative normalcy, albeit without a webcam. Yeah, I was bummed I couldn't use it anymore and that I had spent $60 on it, but I was just happy to have the problem fixed. That was until 2 days ago. I walked into my apartment after a long day at work to find a new message waiting for me on my computer. I felt my hands begin to shake as I read the message posted on the screen. "I know where you live." I sat down and was about to close out the message before I paused briefly. I clicked onto the chat box and decided to try again to send a message back. I once again asked, "Who is this?" And this time, I actually received a reply. The message said, "Your biggest admirer." I sent another message. "What do you want?" It only responded with a single word, but that word was enough for me to shut down my computer instantly. The message replied with, "You." I didn't know what to think. Was some hacker just sitting on the other end messing with me? Were they watching me through some other means? I had so many questions and very little answers. After I powered off my computer, I quickly phoned my friend and asked if he could come over and take a look at my PC. He said he was at work, but he would stop by later. So, in an attempt to distract myself, I decided to watch some TV. About an hour and a half of watching passed before I heard a knock at my door. Thinking it was my friend, I walked over and opened it. There was no one there. I glanced around my apartment hallway to find it completely empty. I shut my door and went back to watching some TV. A few more minutes passed and there was another knock at my door. I once again walked over to it, but this time I was a bit more hesitant. When I opened it, my friend was standing on the other side. With relief, I invited him in and we chatted for a bit before he began looking at my computer. He ran a few personal antivirus programs similar to what I had already done, and he checked for a few known directories which programmers like to use for their viruses. After a half hour of searching, he came up empty-handed and told me that the messages were probably nothing, and if it still persists, look into buying a new computer. I sighed and thanked him for coming over anyway. As soon as he left, I was walking back to my living room when I passed by my PC again. A new message was waiting for me on my screen. This message read, "He's next." I spent the next 20 minutes completely dismantling my computer. After I was finished, I was too on edge to sleep, so I spent most of my night watching TV on the couch. I woke up this morning to multiple phone calls from different people. The first set of calls were from my bank, asking if I had made any strange purchases lately as my bank account had been completely cleared out. The next few calls were from my work, saying that I had been fired for sending out a mass email to everyone in the office. The email contained slurs and insults towards everyone in the office, especially my boss. The last few calls were from my friend who stopped by the other night to check on my computer. He told me that my prank was very funny, but that it needed to stop now. I called him back and he explained to me that he was now having messages pop up on his computer. I told him that wasn't me, and that was exactly what I had been experiencing. He hung up after that. Shortly after, I received a text on my phone from an unknown number. The message read again, "I see you." I sent back a reply. "Why are you doing this?" The answer I received was not the one I wanted to hear. It simply said, "Because I can." I don't know who or what has been stalking me. I'm not even sure if this message will make it out to you guys. I just want to warn as many people as I can. If you find yourself receiving strange messages from an unknown source, call a technician or call the police and buy a new computer. And if you are one of the people out there that owns a webcam, be very careful. They could be watching you right now.